A little time to just orientate yourself. Just look down at your feet. What have you got on your feet? Are you wearing anything? Have you got a name of that village?
Hatfield.
What year is it?
1609.
And who owns the big house?
One special, I think.
Special in what way?
I think they're royal.
So when you're ready, take a nice deep breath in. That's it. Take a few of those. That's okay. That's why I get you to do it, so you can go into yourself. And when you're ready, I just want you to close your eyes. That happened naturally. That's good. And when you're ready, I just want you to take a little time now, a little time to just orientate yourself. In your own time, look down at your feet. Just look down at your feet. What have you got on your feet? Are you wearing anything? It was really interesting watching her. When you ask someone sometimes to look at their feet or what are they wearing, they actually physically sort of look or kind of, you can see that their eye movements are looking, and they're sort of quite into it, they're quite in it.
I can see a floor.
Okay. What's the floor like?
Like stone.
Mm-hmm.
Like a bit slippy.
Okay. What else is around?
Okay, it's like a kitchen. Like dressers in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm. What's on the dressers?
Plates. Like dinner plates.
What do the dinner plates look like? Do they have a particular pattern or are they plain?
Oh, wooden.
Where is this place?
In the country.
What country?
In England.
Mm-hmm. What part of the country?
A big house.
Is it your big house?
No.
So what are you doing there?
I work there.
You work there? Okay. What's your name?
Eliza.
Eliza. Have you always lived here?
No, I think I work here.
Okay. So if you work there, where did you come from?
From the village.
What's the village?
In Essex.
Have you got a name of that village?
Hatfield.
Were you born there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Your family's still there?
Yeah.
Who's in your family?
Sister. Brother. Another little one. Yeah, my mum and my dad.
So your mum and dad are still there?
Yeah.
What does your dad do?
Works on the farm.
What does he do? Is he a farmer?
Yeah. He's like works on the farm, does the chores.
Mm-hmm.
What's your family name? Do you have a family name?
Roberts.
Roberts. What year is it?
1609.
1609.
Yeah.
And how old are you?
22.
Wow. And you're working at the big house.
Maid.
And who owns the big house?
One special, I think.
Special in what way?
I think they're royal.
Do you know their names?
No, I'm not allowed upstairs.
You must have heard about them though. What have you heard about them?
Princess. It's hot.
That's okay. Is it because you're in the kitchen?
Sweating, my palms are sweating.
Why are your palms sweating, Eliza?
I get in trouble soon.
Why would you get in trouble?
I'm always in trouble
What do you do that gets you into trouble?
because I'm slow.
What are you slow at?
At my jobs, and I get told off by the lady in the kitchen.
What are you supposed to be doing then? What do you do?
All the pots and the carrying things around to the table. Not anybody here at the minute in the big house, it's just us staff.
And what's the name of this lady that keeps telling you off?
Betty.
How old's Betty?
She's fat.
She's fat.
Yeah.
So is she a cook then?
Yeah.
What sort of food do you make there?
Pies. Pies.
What sort of pies?
Meat pies.
What kind of meat?
Lots of chicken and something smelly.
Something smelly?
Brown.
Smelly and brown?
Yeah.
What's smelly and brown, Eliza?
I think it might be mutton. Smells.
Do you get to eat it too?
No, you just eat bread.
What type of bread?
Sometimes we steal the food.
What type of bread? What's the bread like?
Big loaves of bread, round like that.
Do you make it there?
Yeah,
How do you make it then?
big fire over there. And you put it on the fire.
Do you have to do that?
Yeah, it's my job.
It would have been quite typical of the period to eat bread. It wouldn't have just been bread, but they would quite often have cut the bottom bit of the bread. When you put it in the oven, it goes quite hard, and they would cut off that bottom bit and they would have that as a platter. And you would actually give that to the poor as well, and you would put odds and sods left over onto that with the juices, some meat juices, and that would have actually been a meal. So that does quite tie in. She would probably have eaten that way. That's not to say that she wouldn't have had a pie or anything, but probably at the end of the evening that's what they would have given them.
And then my brother works there too. House.
What does he do?
Bit like a slave. Only little.
What do they get him doing then?
Going up and down just to clear up and do the fire, clean all the fireplaces.
What's his name?
Henry.
When Henry cleans the fireplaces, how does he do that?
There's like a sweep brush, and then like a pan. Stoke the fires so that the rooms are hot.
What do the fireplaces look like?
huge.
Do you like living there? Do you like working there?
Yeah, I do actually. It's hard work. Don't get any days off. I do like it.
Are they good to you?
Yeah. Get to go to the village. It's like a walk down there to see my mum. She's called Amy.
What's the village called again?
Hatfield.
What's the name of the big house then? Does it have a name?
Big. Red.
Can you describe to me what it looks like? Say if I was standing outside and looking at it, what does it look like?
Big park outside with trees. It's not a castle. It's like a big manor house.
What year was it built?
Oh, it's old. Like, old. Hundreds of years old.
Who owns it then?
Like, no. Nobody here at the minute. It's just us working there. It's an important place.
So these important people, when they're not there, where are they?
They have other residences.
Where do they travel from or to? What other places do they go to? Do you hear them talking?
One of them. Lots of different people come. I'm not sure if there's an important person that lived there. Now there's just us working there. Nobody's important there. No princesses there anymore.
So who was this princess? What was her name? Or what is her name?
Well, she was there. She's not there now. With red hair. But I wasn't there then.
Mm-hmm.
Just here. But now there's nobody there. It just is used every now and then.
And this red-haired princess, is she an English princess?
Yeah.
When we questioned her and she said about the red-headed princess, we all automatically thought Queen Elizabeth I, because she's the most famous red-headed princess. And we looked at the dates. Nigel and Charlotte looked up at dates within the Peveril and when Elizabeth was around, and it could well have worked out. She was sort of saying about 30 years ago, yeah, she might have been a queen then. So would you have described her as a princess? But then she is talking about something that sort of happened before her time, so she might have got those dates slightly out, and it might be hearsay. She's heard that someone's saying, "Oh, the red-headed princess came here," so that could tie in with servant gossip, etc. So we feel that there could be a link there.
Louise said that the red-haired princess had visited the house. I think she said 30 years previously. We've assumed that the red-haired princess is Elizabeth I. I think that's a reasonable assumption, but it may be wrong.
She had a very strong connection to Essex due to her engagement to the Earl of Essex. And it makes sense that she would have done a tour of the community. So, she would have stayed in whatever manor house was in the area or potentially owned by the Earl of Essex. I would love to find a historian or somebody that is aware of Elizabeth visiting.
Elizabeth I became Queen of England in 1558, so to be the red-haired princess, she would have had to have visited the house prior to 1558, which is more than 30 years prior to the 1609 that Louise is referring to being there.
Because it was Queen Elizabeth I 20 years prior to Eliza's existence. She would have been a queen, not a princess.
So the dates aren't 100% accurate, but she might have got confused with the timeline.
Was there another red-headed princess that was significant in this time? I'm not sure. I'm not fantastic on my history, I have to admit, but it would be interesting.
And lots of people come, so when we have to do all the food, lots of cooking, I get shouted at.
You get shouted at a lot, don't you?
Yeah.
Is it just Betty that shouts at you, or do other people shout at you?
Betty and another lady, quite horrible to me. But it's okay. Go home sometimes.
What do you do when you go home?
I'll just help at home with my mother and the little child.
Is that a brother or a sister?
Sister
How old is your little sister?
too.
How old's your mum?
She's quite old. 40.
And what does she do?
She is at home.
But if you were to tell me what you're wearing now, Eliza, what clothes are you wearing? I'm interested.
Like a white thing on my head. Sheet. And then like plain black dress, buttons, and an apron.
What does your dress look like? What sort of shape is it?
High. To the floor. I think I can't see my shoes. Black.
And how does it do up?
Buttons.
Where are the buttons? What do you wear underneath your dress?
Oh, lots of petticoats.
What's the top part of your dress like? What do you wear under that?
Oh, it's tight. It's really tight.
Have you got anything else on underneath it?
Wrapped in. White.
Is that your work clothes then?
Yeah.
So if you're not working, do you have different clothes?
No. Always the same. Unless I go home.
Yes, the outfit that she was wearing, I felt, although it wasn't massively descriptive and she didn't say anything really specific or use any period words, it did sound like she was wearing something of that era. There was certainly nothing that would say that she was making that up. She had a particular kind of cap on, which would have been very period. And the way she was sort of describing, I'm not allowed upstairs, I'm shouted at a lot, I have to do certain things, that's all very much of that period. So there would have been a very specific hierarchy, and she would have most definitely been one of the underservants. So I felt that was quite specific.
Or skirts. Long.
What does the fabric feel like?
Cotton.
Mm-hmm.
Heavy.
So you said there was a red-headed princess before your time. Do you know how long before you that princess was there?
I 30 years ago.
And just the house is empty now.
Yeah.
No one special comes to stay.
Sometimes, but just to stay, they pass and they use it to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go. You just have to keep it all the time.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you some questions now, and I want you to just accept whatever comes into your head. No need to question, you just know what the answers are. Just let me know what comes to you. And so once again, what's your name?
Eliza,
How old are you?
22,
What's the name of the place you're in?
Hatfield,
What country is that in?
England,
And what part of the country is that?
6,
And just to confirm, what year is it?
1609.
When Louise mentioned that she was working in a big red bricked house in Hatfield, then I got very excited because she said that the red-haired princess had lived there or had come there and visited there. And Hatfield House in Hertfordshire is a place that Elizabeth I lived prior to becoming queen, and Louise said that she lived in Hatfield, so I got very excited. Then, to my frustration, on 2 occasions she mentioned that Hatfield was in Essex, and that just is not the case. Hatfield is in Hertfordshire as far as I'm concerned, and I researched and I wanted to know, is it possible that Hatfield used to be in Hertfordshire and it used to be in Essex? No, it's always been in Hertfordshire since Doomsday.
I really wanted to ensure that we weren't cynical in the process of researching and rewatching the footage. I felt it was really important to say, well, it could be this, it could be that. We don't know at the moment. Let's take a breath and see what we can uncover. And he, I think, felt very worried and frustrated because he just would love so much to uncover this, to find a real life that you can research.
When I'm doing this series, I have to be, I said I'm going to be totally honest, and so I've got a piece of evidence there that is against that this is a genuine memory. She's got the county wrong, in my opinion. But my daughter did some research and she came across a place called Hatfield Peveril in Essex.
My dad and I have had a bit of an ongoing conflict about the Hatfield versus Hatfield Peveril argument. Saying Hatfield Peveril every time when you know that when you're familiar with Hatfield Peveril.
I still wasn't convinced. The red brick house sounded very much like Hatfield Place or Hatfield House. The description sounded pretty good. I was absolutely convinced that she was working at the house that Elizabeth I had lived in Hatfield, Hertfordshire. And my daughter was absolutely convinced that it was Hatfield Peveril. So of course I said, well, why did she say Hatfield Peveril?
I think that it makes sense that if somebody lives in Hatfield Peveril in Essex and they're talking to somebody that knows Hatfield Peveril in Essex, being able to just say Hatfield is much simpler and easier. And I don't think it's far-fetched that when she said Hatfield in Essex, she meant Hatfield Peveril in Essex. But my dad found that tenuous and frustrating.
As I subsequently discovered, there has been another subject, a famous subject, who was regressed and said she lived in Hatfield, and that turned out to be Hatfield Peveril. And that other subject didn't use the name Hatfield Peveril; she just called it Hatfield. So the evidence was moving in the direction that maybe it was Hatfield Peveril that Louise was referring to when she said she lived in Hatfield in Essex. There was somebody who hypnotised a lot of people and took the best subjects back to the places that they appeared to have lived in. And their approach was that when they hypnotised them, they hypnotised them to continue to remember the place that they lived, such that when they went back there, they still had those memories. And there's actually a series on that you can get on YouTube. It's very old. I think it's regression, and it's got hypnotic regression band tapes or something like that. And there's about 12 videos, and they're really, really interesting. The one about Glastonbury, there's a woman who lived near to Glastonbury, is very convincing, what came out of that.
The research to do with the buildings, I mean, obviously Hatfield's a red brick building, I think, from what I recall. So yes, it could be. But then that period, there probably were a few houses that were red brick, because that would have been quite trendy at that period. So yeah, I'm on the fence with it.
Sure enough, there does seem to have been a manor house in Hatfield Peveril. We don't know much about it. It's been knocked down. I'd love a local historian to tell us more about what the building was like, and whether it could accurately be described as a red brick building with a park outside it, which is, I believe, Louise's explanation. So if any local historians in Hatfield Peveril are able to give us some more information, I'd really like to know. But as it turns out, my daughter seems as if her hypothesis was right, and I got it wrong. That sucks.
So I'd like you to just let those images fade now. And as the images start to reform, tell me what you find yourself doing.
Don't live very long.
Okay.
So where are you at now then? How old are you now?
At home.
Okay.
With your mum?
Yeah.
What's up?
I'm very poorly, dying.
Okay, how's that feel with you?
Yeah, not very nice.
Okay. So you don't need to worry about that now, because, you know, it's not going to hurt you.
When people become distressed, they are reliving those moments, but not quite how we imagine when we're upset now. So she's actually Louise sitting in the chair, and she is experiencing the life of Eliza, but she can go into those emotions. So what you want to do is you just want to separate that emotion, and she came out really quickly. If you just move them on, take them out of that scene, the emotions can go quite quickly, because effectively she is sort of watching herself, even though she's feeling it as well. So we don't want to keep people in trauma, we don't want to keep people upset, so we just move them on, and she moved on quite quickly.
I just want you to let those images fade. Those images can just fade away. And you can move forward in time to when you're not Eliza anymore, but you're just floating. Just floating. And Eliza's life, that's all in the past now. And all the emotion and pain that came with that doesn't matter. And as you're floating there, you used to be Eliza. I want you to just think back on Eliza's life. And can you tell me a bit more about Eliza, just from where your spirit is now? Just look back on Eliza's life and tell me a bit about her.
She just was always working, never to do anything fun really. She didn't get to do anything she wanted to do.
Okay. And so now I want you to just think about, just reflect on that experience you've just had as Eliza, and allow a few words of wisdom to spring into your thoughts. What lessons have you learnt from that life of Eliza's?
It was sad.
Okay. But did you learn anything from that? Something to take forward with you, to learn from Eliza's hard work?
Yeah. She was a good girl and she worked hard.
And you can let that can go into your subconscious, knowing that you were Eliza and that you were a hard worker, you were a good person. There's something to learn from that, to take forward into your life.
I thought that Louise was very believable. I think it was a genuine memory. Again, I'm not trying to claim it's her memory. She may be tapping into a central memory, but I believed that that person lived. I think that it was a very ordinary life. I think it was a beautiful story as well. She told a beautiful story of a young girl working in a big house being constantly told off by Betty the cook. Why it was also particularly believable was, talking about the bread, the big fireplace. It all just seemed to fit.
I felt Louise's episode was fascinating. It was so exciting for me to witness and to think that she was really feeling what she was experiencing under hypnosis.
I thought Louise went quite deep. Her answers were very straight, very, very quick. So she really kind of knew that she was there. There was no fishing around for it. She knew it was 1609. She knew it was Hatfield. She said it very, very specifically. And I always ask several times because sometimes they can change, but it didn't change. So that was quite interesting. Her description of certain things like the loaf of bread would have been quite sort of period. And I felt that she was there. I felt like when you saw her eye movements, she was there.
At one point, Angelina asks Louise what is on her feet under hypnosis, and Louise checks her feet, and I just thought that was fantastic. I could really picture her. I could really imagine Eliza when Louise was describing the outfit and her struggles with Betty, and it was incredibly sad at the end when she started crying because she was so sad that Eliza hadn't lived a full and proper life. And it's just interesting to me that she has that emotional connection. Perhaps that's in the subconscious, perhaps that's because Louise is a compassionate person. I'm unsure, but it's interesting.
One of the beautiful yet sad things about Louise's regression was that when she was brought out of the hypnotic trance, then she was very emotional, and it was beautiful to hear her say she was a good soul. And Louise also referred to the fact that she never had any fun, that she was always working, and that was kind of sad but beautiful at the same time.
In the research process with my dad for finding out whether or not Eliza Roberts did exist, we phoned the council, we tried to speak to anybody that might have access to the parish records, and I found something online. I believe it was on some kind of ancestry style website where there was an Eliza Roberts living in a town about half an hour walk from Hatfield Peveril. And the really frustrating thing about it for me was that during the hypnosis session, she referenced her mother's name, which was Amy Roberts, but she didn't reference her dad at all. And if you think about it, it makes sense that they would have only noted the father down, or the main interest in who owned this child, who owned this person, would have been the dad. And I found a record that said Eliza Roberts, and then it had a father's name and not a mother's name. And it was noted as the birthplace in half an hour walk away from Hatfield Peveril, the year that Eliza would have been born based on the dates she provided. Now, my dad is absolutely adamant that Eliza was probably similar to Elizabeth, and that was a very common name. Roberts was probably a very common surname, so it's very tenuous, and that was how he saw it. I can't help but wonder.
I haven't been to Hatfield Peveril and investigated in detail, but I believe that the date that Louise would have been born was just prior to parish records being retained for that village. And so, although we have a name, Eliza, and usually we've got a surname, so it's Eliza Roberts, and we've got a pretty accurate date for one we're talking about, it seems unlikely that we're going to be able to go to the local parish records and verify that such a person lived. Again, if there's someone in Hatfield Peveril that can give us access to parish records that proved that there was an Eliza Roberts that was born at about the right time, then I would be very interested to hear that. Charlotte and I would love to take Louise to Hatfield Peveril just to see if she had any sense of déjà vu and whether she remembered the place.
Eight, you can open your eyes. 9, 10, coming back. Mind and body fully refreshed, return to normal, wide awake. Every part of you back here with me in this room.
Weird.
All natural feelings returned to every part of you. Wide awake, wide awake, wide awake. And you can just have a little bit of a move and wiggle your toes.
Yeah.
Just very
Sweat.
gently come back into yourself because you were deep.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
God, I am dripping
Yeah.
with sweat.
That was really good. I had to bring you back because you were getting upset about your death.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have prodded a bit more, but
Yeah.
it wasn't worth it. Oh, when I said, "What's your feet like?" you went like that.
Did I?
Yeah, yeah. You almost looked down. You went like that.
Did I?
And I've written here, very tactile, actually living it, feeling
Yeah.
it. You were feeling
See
everything,
this,
and you
like,
kept going, "Oh, I'm
picture.
hot."
Did I?
Yeah, I'm hot, and I keep getting told off. Yeah.